down to Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's power, have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of 5 on the Floor Live. I am your host, Greg Sylvander. Tonight's floor plan, we come to you reluctantly after the Miami Heat lose a really tough game at home. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Tonight's floor plan with me, Brian Fonseca and Naveen Ganglani. You're going to see more of him on a lot of our programs. It's his maiden voyage on 5 on the Floor as a co-host. We appreciate him being here, as well as Brian. You know, he's always going to be around, and he'll drop a couple F-bombs to keep us on our toes. Before we dive into all of that, I want to shout out off the floor. That's our new Discord server. We need you to take the leap. Get off of all the other social media and come to Off the Floor, because that is where the most informed Heat fans are talking. There's no like back and forth attacks, personal insults, nothing like that. It is 10 channels or more of just straight Miami Heat talk. $2.99 a month on desktop, $3.99 from your Apple device. Link is into this in the description. Go to Off the Floor. You need to check that out. That is where we are talking Miami Heat day and night, and we're going to get Naveen in there very soon. I don't know that I've seen you in there, so if not, we're going to make sure to get you hooked up. Before we dive into the gamer of the night and the play of the night and the fourth quarter execution that was not good, and the one field goal attempted by Bam Adebayo in the fourth quarter, which is not good, but Jimmy Butler's lackluster play. Naveen, with this being your maiden voyage, your initial takeaways from the Miami Heat's loss to the Philadelphia 76ers 109-105 at the Kaseya Center.
It was disgraceful. Let's just call it what it is. It was so disgraceful. I mean, they went 3 stretches during the game where they didn't make a field goal for at least 4 minutes. And what's it now? Maybe 20 times this has happened this season. And we can't just say, oh, Tyler's not there, he would be there, he'd fix this. No, it's the shot quality. It's the process of getting into their actions. They're running the same things they've run over the last few years, and teams know it well. Get Jimmy the ball, high post, pistol action, and that's where the offense starts. And so often you find them trying to get late offense with 9 seconds left in the shot clock, and it's just a bad offensive possession, ends in a turnover, ends in a miss. The other team runs, the other team scores, and that triggers an 11-0 run, a 13-0 spurt. I mean, Philly closed this game out with Embiid not even playing great at the final stretch of the game. They just closed it out because the Heat offense sucked. They got out in transition. Oubre hit that 3 from the corner, and it's just disappointing, and it's so disgraceful because this keeps happening. They don't find a solution. And now Philly, with a soft schedule the rest of the way to end this regular season, they have a leg up on that 6th seed. And I mean, given the Heat schedule the rest of the way, reality is it's probably looking like another play-in appearance.
Yeah, and they're going to need the game in Indiana. That's going to change things. I think that this game, Eric Reed said it, it's not a fatal loss, but it hurts. And if they get the game in Indiana, things can be turned around. But you wanted this one at home. You had the chance to get it. Brian, why the hell are they so inconsistent? What is up with this? They get down by 12, and then all of a sudden they're up 8. There was a moment they were up 102-94, and the next thing you know, it was like they were down by 8, and they still only had 102. I remember it was a crazy run. What do you make of these runs? And also, what do you make of Jimmy Butler's early approach to these games?
They were down 12-0 to start the game. 17-4 at one point in the first quarter.
17-2, I think.
Yeah, or whatever it was. A game where we were coming into it all right, this is a playoff game, essentially. You're playing for position. You have a chance to put the Sixers in the play-in. It was the same fuck around shit that they were doing last year, where it was they have an opportunity to get over the hump, so to speak. They don't do it, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. And it was amazing to me that Philly actually needed this effort from Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid combined 66 points, combined on great efficiency, to actually put away this team because Bam and Jimmy didn't show up. To me, like I know Jimmy cosmetically, you see 20 points, you see 5 assists, but Jimmy didn't play good at all. I felt like even his defense tonight, I felt like it felt like one of those games where it's like, when an older star, Dwayne Wade, this happened to, Kobe Bryant, this happened to, where they start making all defense based off of reputation. It felt like one of these games where Jimmy Butler was a reputation defender, where I'm looking at guys go by him that shouldn't go by him. I'm looking at people out muscle him. There was an easy ass spin move that Joel Embiid had on him at one point, just isolation. By the way, one of the things that I told you about early on this year is Jimmy Butler, 34 years old, 13th year. You can't really say, hey, he's going to do all the same shit he did before as a guarantee, as a layup, right? And then Bam just struggled out the gate. His first quarter was brutal, just missing shots, just not getting to the spot. There was no physicality. I'm not hard on Bam like the way other people are, because without him, they don't do any of the shit that they do over the last 4 or 5 seasons. He's the reason their defense is what it is, essentially, for the most part. But he was not impactful at all tonight. And there's a reason why, other than the fact that he was mirroring Joel Embiid's minutes late, there's a reason why Kevin Love was able to play well into the fourth quarter with about 3 minutes and change left until we saw Bam finally in the fourth quarter. But Bam and Jimmy didn't come through. They were like, it wasn't even close in terms of how much they were outplayed by Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. So it starts there and it trickles down to everybody else. And if it wasn't for Terry Rozier, I don't know where they would have been at the end of that game.
And Terry Rozier appeared to come up laboring there at the end of the game. We'll get into that in the injury report. You mentioned Joel Embiid. You mentioned Tyrese Maxey. Let's get to the Rocky Sports Gamer of the Night.
And now on 5 on the Floor, it's time for the Gamer of the Night, sponsored by Rock Esports Center, the place to eat, drink, and play all day. Host your next birthday party with them. Located at 15305 South Dixie Highway in Palmetto Bay. They've got a 5,500 square foot state-of-the-art center equipped with all the high-end power. Play all-day passes available for just $25, but if you mention 5 reasons, it's just $20. So mention 5 reasons or 5 RSN. You get to play all day for $20. And now, the Gamer of the Night.
So I want to shout out Kevin Love for playing really well, but tonight's Gamer of the Night is no doubt Tyrese Maxey, the one that got away to every Heat fan. 37 points, 15 of 26 from the field, 9 rebounds, 11 assists, only 1 turnover. Jesus, this guy is unbelievable. I love watching him play basketball. It's why in a 1-game series in a play-in scenario against Philadelphia, I don't love the idea of it because he's just so electric and they have no one that can stop him. So he is absolutely the Gamer of the Night. Kind of as we talk about the rest of this roster, let's hone in on the other 2 starters that were quiet, Naveen. Nico Jovic and Duncan Robinson combined for 13 points. They only both played 19 minutes. It was a weird game where they weren't in foul trouble, but they didn't get a ton of minutes. What the heck is up with Duncan Robinson since he's been back? What's been your perspective as you've watched him? And also just Jovic, I think tonight might have been an outlier with matchups and Oubre and how well he was playing and being aggressive as he was. They needed more athleticism out there. But from your perspective, what's going on with Duncan Robinson?
Well, he just doesn't look as explosive as he did before the injury. And that's not to say Duncan Robinson was ever explosive in the popular way that term is defined when it comes to talking about NBA players. But just the moving, the cutting, the dribble handoffs with Bam, there's just not that oomph that he had before the injury where he would come off, relocate, pass the ball, move around real quickly. We're not seeing him do a lot of that. We haven't even seen him utilize a lot of the new traits he's added to his game this season. Some of the pick and roll, closing out on defenders, attacking defenders, closing out on him, hitting that little mid-range pull-up floater. It's like he's gone back to being more of a 3-point threat since he's come back, and he's just not moving correctly, at least to my eyes, after having watched Duncan the last 5 years. And the 3-point shot, there's no rhythm right now. There's no that electrifying concept of seeing Duncan pull up, move around, rotate around screens. And maybe that's time. Duncan's a rhythm player. He's always been like that. He's been streaky to some degree. So maybe he just needs a few more games to get back, get his knees and legs under him and start moving around. With Jovic, I thought he actually had a pretty decent game. Not a great game, but a decent game. There were 2 scenarios where he had the bust out dribble, went all the way coast to coast. And that's kind of something this Heat offense needs more of. The defense was all right. Yeah, the 3-point shooting was all right. It was just his combination with Bam. It wasn't good. I know plus minus isn't the most perfect stat, but Bam tonight minus 29 in 29 minutes, and Jovic minus 15 in 20 minutes, and Jovic and Bam spent a lot of time together. Meanwhile, Kevin Love was a plus 25 in 19 minutes, and I know a lot of people in the comment section right now are saying that Spo made a mistake taking too long to bring Bam and Rozier back in the game, but the truth of the matter is the Heat went up in the fourth quarter with that unit, with Love, with Jaquez, with Caleb. And I would have actually wanted to see Love ride the whole way out, play the whole fourth quarter, just because from the start, it looked like one of those games where Bam was just off rhythm, not playing well, and Love was actually doing a great job, particularly in that zone. And if there's any mistakes Spo made, in my opinion, it was not letting Love play the entire quarter. I know why you go back to your superstars at the end of the day, but I just felt Love was awesome.
Could they have played Bam and Love together? Was that a possibility, Brian? I that was where I was going next. How do you feel about that? I know it didn't happen, so like we're not going to pontificate on it for long, but I'm interested in why he stuck with who he stuck with. And also, I thought Jaquez got a long leash down the stretch and played pretty well in stretches. What was your thoughts on Jaime Jaquez tonight?
He was fine. I liked his effort a lot. The shooting, as a couple people here commented, is worrisome, I guess. But like the reason he wasn't drafted higher is because of the shooting. Like he wasn't a great 3-point shooter in college. He had one good 3-point shooting season in college. That's not to say he's not going to be a good shooter. It's just something you have to develop, and that's going to take some time. Like it's probably going to be another year or two until you start seeing him knock down the 3 consistently. We got to remember, like he's a rookie. Even though he was in college for 4 years, what felt like forever, he's a rookie. That's something that's going to be worked on with more NBA years and NBA reps. Like probably year 2, year 3, year 4, you're going to really see some improvement compared to where he is now, particularly because as the season's going on, the rookie wall and things of that nature. I think the corner 3, as somebody else comments here, Van Lee, thank you for that. Yeah, corner 3 is something he's going to have to work on, especially if you're playing off of some of the same characters who are going to be here next season. Beyond that, though, yeah, Kevin Love and Bam like together is something that I would want to look at every now and again, because that's what you did last year, and it worked a lot of times last year when you started going to it down the stretch. Kevin Love was starting at the 4 as soon as you signed him for a reason. There's a reason why you sort of left that where it was. I have no problem with Kevin Love in a closing lineup alongside Bam. I don't think it needs to be an either-or situation. I think against a team that has Joel Embiid, it makes a lot of sense to size up in that way. And then you sort of figure out the rest. Now, the problem is who are you going to squeeze out, but you could just sort of figure that out as you go. Other than that, I mean, look, I said what I said about Jimmy and Bam in particular. Like those two need to play better. Jimmy, after the All-Star break, I thought he would be at a higher level. He was for a period of time through like mid-March. He was averaging post All-Star break, or really, if you go back to that Clippers game in late January, from there to mid-March, you're talking about a 6-week period. He was averaging basically 22, 6, and 6 on like 50, 40, and 80 free throw shooting. Like he was playing well up until a couple weeks ago, and he hasn't really had like a great Jimmy game or even a really good Jimmy game since that win over Cleveland in Cleveland, where Terry Rozier obviously had a big finish to that game. So
something is up with Jimmy. I don't know what it is. And we'll talk about it after the break, maybe a little bit. I want to get into fourth quarter execution. And before we talk about any of those things, let's go to the A aggressive play of the night.
And now it's time for the Insurance by Lynette Play of the Night, sponsored by insurancebylynette.com and A Aggressive Insurance Agency. You can reach out to our friend Lynette at 954-581 954-581-8800. That's 954-581-8800 or insurancebylinet.com. That's insurancebylinet.com with 2 N's and 2 T's. Your best play for auto insurance, homeowners insurance, condo insurance, life insurance, or a retirement program. Reach out to Lynette at insurancebylinet.com.
So the play of the night, Brian teed this up, and I'm with him on it. K-Love threw that alley-oop full court to Jimmy, and Jimmy finished it. We need more of that, Jimmy. That's the issue here. I don't know what to say about Jimmy Butler. I don't know if maybe we're at a situation where he's finally Father Time is undefeated, and that includes versus Jimmy Butler. I don't know if he's dealing with something off the court that maybe we are not inclined to talk about. I don't know if he's banged up. I don't know what is happening here. But fourth quarter execution, let's go down the stretch of that game and what happened late. I felt like the last possession or two, there were a lot of really bad decisions. Naveen, what do you think is happening with this team late in games with execution specifically? And let's also, because the commenters, and we're going to take questions before we close out the show, so don't worry, everyone. We will get to your questions as well. Do you take this fourth quarter execution and do you place, and I don't want to say the blame because that gets kind of sports hacky. I'm saying when you're looking at this, is it more on Jimmy and Bam and the guys that were on the court, or do you look at Eric Spoelstra when you look at the fourth quarter execution or the lack thereof tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers?
I think this mostly it's roster construction for me, and that's not to say that this isn't a good roster, because defensively they can be good and they can offensively they can have spurts where they get really explosive and they put on points in a hurry. But Jimmy was always that wing player for them who could penetrate, get in the paint, and start actions where you get 2 on the ball. And that's what offense in the NBA is right now. If you want to have an effective offense, you need to get 2 on the ball, swing, find the open shooter, rotate, stuff like that. But nowadays, even Jimmy, I mean, down the stretch of the game, they put Kyle Lowry on him, and Jimmy couldn't get past Kyle. Couldn't shake him, tried to take him in the post, couldn't really convert. When you look at the rest of the offensive players that they have, Rozier gets his buckets mostly from jump shots. Bam, same thing. And they don't really have Hero to create another creator. They need that wing scorer who can get in the paint, get some easy buckets, maybe get you quick points in succession. Maxi's not exactly a wing, but the way he's so explosive and can get to the paint, use that speed, he can put points up in a hurry. And they just don't have that right now. Even Rozier, he had a hot game the other day. I thought he was good today too. But it's a lot of step back jump shots. It's a lot of actions that result in late clock possessions. They don't really have a lot of early offense options. And I think that just hurts them. And Jimmy has said it multiple times in the past, when the offense isn't humming, then the defense suffers as well. And when the defense suffers and they can't get out on the break and they're forced to have offensive possessions, try to run things, and now with Jimmy just not being Jimmy, it's hard. You have these droughts where they don't score a field goal for half a quarter. I mean, it's 2024. Teams are scoring 130 points, 140 points regularly. And here I am asking myself constantly, how many times am I going to watch a Heat game where they don't score a field goal for 5 or 6 minute stretches? It's maybe a lack of creativity to some degree. I think a lot of the sets that they've run over the years, teams have just scouted because there's a lot of tape on what they do now because of deep playoff runs and multiple times this team has been together.
Good point.
It's so many things. It feels to some degree like a squad that's hitting its peak, and either they need to find a way to reinvent themselves offensively or just add new pieces. But at this point of the season, I don't know how you can do either.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. So it's about looking internally and trying to figure out what they can do to make a deep playoff run. I think Terry has showed signs of providing some of what they've needed, and tonight he was big as well. Let's go to the injury report really quickly, just because I think he may be a slight part of it.
And now it's time for the official 5 on the Floor injury report, sponsored by our friend Eric Rubenstein, the personal injury attorney. Born and raised in Lauderdale, Florida, lives in Miami, went to St. Thomas. He's a South Florida guy and a huge Miami Heat fan. But the important thing is he can help you get your money that you deserve when something happens to you. So reach out to our guy, Eric Rubenstein. Again, ericrubenstein.com, or ask about me. I got you on Instagram. And now, the injury report.
Injury report clean. Terry Rozier did bang knees late in the game, but I think he's going to be okay. He walked off under his own power, but we'll watch for updates there. Tyler Hero still out. Do not expect Tyler Hero to be back. Fellas, let's look ahead a little bit to the game tomorrow night against the Houston Rockets. The Houston Rockets are coming in hot. Brian, I felt like tonight, this was the night to be confident, and that tomorrow night was not the night that I would feel confident. Is there any way that you think Miami can go in on the second night of a back-to-back and knock off? I mean, there's ways of getting it done, but what's the probability against a Houston team who is streaking?
I mean, they've calmed down a little bit, but I don't know what I'm going to see from this team on a night-to-night basis, So it is what it is. Like, I didn't expect them to win tomorrow because I thought they'd win today, lose tomorrow, and we'll see about Indiana. I can't make predictions on this team at this point because I don't know what they are. We're in April. It's not like we're at the end of the season or anything. I'm sure they have a bunch of time to figure out who the fuck they are, but it is what it is at this point. That's where I'm at. They'll probably lose tomorrow. Then you got Pacers, Hawks, Mavs, Raptors. None of those are gimmies. The two Raptors games should be, but hell if I know.
Naveen, agree or disagree? The game at Indiana this coming Sunday will decide whether the Miami Heat are in or out of the play-in.
Well, for that, I don't necessarily agree because only one of Philly, Indy, and Miami is going to make it out of that play-in scenario and get that 6th seed. And right now, Philly's just one game back in the loss column compared to Indy and Miami. And Philly has a way softer schedule the rest of the way. After this Heat game, they fly to Memphis. We know the situation in Memphis. They take on San Antonio in the second night of a back-to-back. Who knows if Embiid will play there? Wemby and the Spurs have been playing better, so maybe there's a chance they lose that. But even after that, they play Detroit, Orlando, and Brooklyn in the last games before their schedule ends. And if you look at Indy and Miami, Miami has the hardest schedule from that crew. So if you ask me right now, I think somehow Philly gets that 6th seed and Indy and Miami end up 7 and 8 in the play-in to some degree. So maybe that game this weekend will determine if Miami would have the home court in a play-in against Indiana, because I think this win for Philly today is exactly what they needed to go on a little late run here and avoid either Milwaukee or Boston in the first round.
Let's go ahead and take some questions. Go ahead and send your questions in, and we'll rapid fire get those done. I actually disagree. I think the Heat schedule is easier than advertised. Toronto, they have to finish with at least the 6th worst record to keep their pick. So I think that they're going to tank those last 2 games in Miami, and that is going to help a ton for Miami in terms of that strength of schedule. But I know that a lot of Heat fans don't feel real confident with some of the other games on the schedule at Indiana, etc. So we'll see how that goes down. Let's take some questions, and then we will get the heck out of here. Any questions from all of our viewers? We have over 1,100 watching live. We appreciate that very much. Here's the first question from Jimmy Buckets. Why does Spo only like Nico in the first quarter? Who wants to take that one?
I mean, look, this is kind of the rotating spot, right? Like the big next to Bam early on was like Kelly Olynyk would play these similar minutes. Myers Leonard, like those guys don't always close games, except at this point, Nikola Jovic is being used as this 4 in a developmental spot, which is to say, I think the reason they're doing this is to get him in early. There hasn't been a scenario really consistently where they've kept them in there late in the game, like in the fourth quarter to close or anything like that. I think that's something that's going to come next year if he's in the same role.
Next question from Danny to Naveen. Is it time to build around Bam?
Can Bam be the best player of a championship contending team? Because honestly, the answer to me is no. I mean, can he be the best defensive player? Absolutely. Although Embiid kind of took his lunch money today, if we're being quite honest. But can you build around him? You can build a defense around him, but offensively, it's just it's not going to be there night after night where you can say this is the centerpiece of the team and we're going to contend for a championship. Can he be the second best player in the championship level team? We've seen it, so my answer is yes, but not the first.
Fair point there. I think even the most passionate BAM enthusiast like myself would say that he's best cast maybe as the second best player overall, and maybe even the third best offensive player overall on a championship level team if we're really getting all of our ducks in a row. We got one more question that comes in here from Ralph. Why is Jimmy so passive, man? Come on. And I don't know the answer to that question. I don't think any of us have the answer, but this is going to be the major question heading into the offseason, heading into the playoffs. Is Jimmy going to rise to the level of play that they need for him to be successful and for the Miami Heat to make a run? Tonight, they did not get that done. Again, they lose at home 109-105, still ahead of Philadelphia in the standings, but the lead shrinks ever so slightly. We are looking now at the Heat in the 7th spot with a half-game lead over the Philadelphia 76ers. Game on Sunday at Indiana is going to tell you a ton about where Miami will finish. So make sure you look out for that. To Naveen, to Brian, thank you very much for joining me. To all of our listeners, we appreciate your support very much. And to all of our live viewers as well, peace out. And hopefully the Heat get the next one.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.